He's heading to Ghana, he's heading to Namibia. Can you tell us a bit more of the significance of the Prime Minister's visits?
Hi, Yvonne. So this comes 30 years later after former heads of states have visited Africa, particularly from India. And there are several ways to look at this significance. One of them is that China is the world's largest producer of rare earth minerals. And in the recent past, we've seen them starting to restrict exports for geopolitical leverage. And that leaves players like India looking for alternative markets to source some of these minerals. They're looking for players that don't have the same cards, they don't hold the same influence and power as China. And that makes Africa the next frontier, and it's very significant because if you look at the countries that he chose to visit, Ghana and Namibia, these are countries that hold a lot of weight, particularly when it comes to minerals. Ghana has gold, and he did not leave the country before securing a high-stake deal for critical minerals, including uranium, lithium, and cobalt for the EV industry. The same can be said about Namibia. They're the world's fourth largest producer of uranium oxide. They also have copper, cobalt, zinc, and diamond. And these are not only critical minerals for green energy production. There are also minerals that fetch good prices at the international market, particularly with gold and diamond. But also there were a few sweeteners in that deal, particularly hammering in on the cooperation and the collaboration between India, Namibia, and Ghana. If we look at Ghana, trade between the two countries, $3 billion. It was $4 billion before the COVID-19 pandemic. And he said that he wants to double that in the next 5 years. If we look at Namibia, slightly under $1 billion investment, slightly under $1 billion. But again, there's so much significance to this because there are Indian companies on the African continent, including Airtel. Indian pharmaceutical are big businesses here because they provide affordable generic medication. And so this is just some of the factors that are laying basis for this visit and trying to cement cooperation between the two countries.
Yeah, you got to wonder what are some of the measures of success in this trip, right? Do you think this visit for Modi can help reposition India in this race for influence in Africa?
Yvonne, to be able to answer that question, we go back to the language that Prime Minister Modi was using during this visit. He says that they're not just travelers. They are also, he says rather, they are just not partners. They're travelers in this journey with African countries like Namibia and Ghana. He also took his time to go back to the deeply rooted history that India shares with these two countries, going all the way back to independence. Indians were one of the first traders and entrepreneurs to come to the African continent. They were doing business along the railway lines in Africa. So the cooperation has always been there, but also they're taking it a notch higher. If you look at the players that are already on the African continent, China, but there have been controversies surrounding the money that comes from China with allegations that they're debt trapping Africa. When you look at the US, the money comes but with conditionalities and lectures. And with President Donald Trump in office, the lectures are guaranteed, the money not so much. So India is saying, look at us, we know you, we understand you, we've been through this journey with you, and we want to work with you. And it's going to be a little bit easier for them in comparison to players like the Middle East, because already there's a perception about India on the African continent that is kind and favorable.